From LPM,
Louisville Public Media.
Welcome to On Track. I'm Aisha Jaffer. It's Women's History Month, a time to recognize the women who have shaped history while paving the way for the future. Women's contributions are woven into every part of society, driving progress, innovation, and justice. One program that lifts up these voices all year round is the Muhammad Ali Center's Daughters of Greatness series, an initiative that honors women who are changemakers in the arenas of social philanthropy, activism, and pursuits of justice. Today, we're exploring the impact of the Daughters of Greatness series with Erin Herbert, Senior Vice President of Operations at the Muhammad Ali Center. Erin serves on the executive leadership team and oversees the center's educational initiatives and business operations. Previously, she served as Education and Events Manager for the World Affairs Council of Kentucky, where she was selected for the U.S. Department of State's Young Leaders Dialogue with America program, fostering cross-cultural dialogue on security, the environment, and diversity. Erin holds a master's in women's and gender studies from the University of Louisville, a bachelor's in cultural anthropology from Hanover College, and a nonprofit financial management certificate from Cornell University. Erin, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So what is the Daughters of Greatness program?
Well, Daughters of Greatness is one of our longest-standing programs at the Muhammad Ali Center. I established it in 2011, right after I joined the center as the education manager. And it's a program that honors the greatness of women and women who are making a difference in our community, both locally, nationally, and internationally. Women who are using their life and their passion to go out and make the world a better place.
When did you establish it?
Sure. Well, I joined the center in August of 2011, and our first Daughters of Greatness program was in November of 2011.
So you got right on it.
Got right on it. Absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned in my bio, but I came to the center right after I received my master's in women's and gender studies, and of course, in exploring Muhammad's legacy and in researching his history, I saw that there were incredible women who were in the background. And also there were so many women's stories in Louisville, great women who were making change. And I thought the center's a place that should celebrate and it should really bring that untold history to the light. So we established the Daughters of Greatness series to really bring out the stories and the histories and the greatness of women in our community and beyond.
Is there any stories that stand out that sort of like inspired you to be like, I have to do something. I have to create this program?
I mean, there are so very many. I'll tell you, interestingly, I established the program after watching the film When We Were Kings, which is Muhammad's history and, of course, tells the story of the rumble in the jungle. And I saw, of course, the history of Muhammad's mother and how influential she was in his life. Of course, I saw Muhammad's wife, Lani Ali, and how impactful she was in his journey to greatness. But I was really introduced to the story of Alberta Jones. I don't know if you're familiar with Alberta. So Alberta Jones was the first Black woman to be a part of the Kentucky Bar Association, and she was Muhammad Ali's attorney. She was the woman who shored him up financially, who established the Louisville Sponsoring Group, who protected him legally as a young 18-year-old man entering into his professional boxing career. And actually, she was an incredible voting rights and civil rights leader in our community, and she was murdered, and her murder was never solved here in Louisville. And her story, her influence, her legal expertise was one of the reasons that Muhammad was able to go on to such a successful boxing and career and financial career. And her story was untold, right? And so she was really the influence. And learning about her in my first few months at the Muhammad Ali Center, she was really a big influence in establishing the Daughters of Greatness series.
What an incredible story. And hopefully one that will be resolved one day.
Hopefully.
Wow.
Yeah.
So an incredible inspiration to create this very fitting program. So when you're looking for these Daughters of Greatness, what are you looking for? What's the process of choosing these honors?
Sure, absolutely. There's a few different things. One, we're looking for women who are really emblematic of Muhammad's life of humanitarianism, of social justice, of using their talents and their passion to make a difference in the world. And that's a really broad umbrella to cast, right? So we're really looking for women who are both locally in our community making a difference, but nationally and internationally as well. And I like the diversity of the program. So it's not just women who have had a lifelong career in activism or social change. It's young women. It's women of all different walks of life from different stories who are simply using their God-given talents to go out and make a difference in the world. The way that we come to select our Daughters of Greatness honorees is, of course, in conversation with our stakeholders, our board of directors. We have a host of women. We can do this program for the next 100 years because there's so many incredible women in our community that we want to honor. But we really look to bring the diversity of our community to the program so that the daughters that you see reflected on our stage really represent the beautiful diversity of Louisville and the impactful work being done in all corners of our community.
And a lot of the times, right, these honorees, they're nominated, right?
Some of them are nominated, absolutely. So I received nominations in all different ways, from past Daughters of Greatness, from community members who walk up to me in the museum and say, this is someone who I think you should celebrate, from people who've been a part of some of our other programs or a part of our Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Awards who recommend women in their life who they think are representative of the Daughters program. So absolutely, we would love to hear from people in our community about who you think should be a Daughter of Greatness.
And this series includes a breakfast event. What is that experience like, and why is gathering in this way important?
I think it's a really beautiful room. So I always say when we're speaking to our upcoming Daughters of Greatness honoree that it's a really safe, warm, and friendly space. It's a community that has grown throughout the years. I remember when we honored when Sadiqa Reynolds introduced Hannah Drake, there were 300 plus people in the room for Hannah, and Sadiqa was one of our early daughters, and she got up there and said, "Oh, when I did Daughters, it was in a closet," and I laughed because it's true. We started the program really small. There were 30, 40 women who attend, community members who would attend to be a part of the conversation, and it's grown now to nearly 350 people from across our community who come together to be in conversation. And that's really the purpose and the core of the Muhammad Ali Center. We consider ourselves a convener for the community, a place where people can gather to discuss the most pressing social justice issues of our day, to come under the guidance of Muhammad's 6 core principles, his values that guided him throughout the life, come from different perspectives, different ideologies, different religions, different walks of life, but hopefully find some mutual understanding. And that's the idea with the Daughters of Greatness program. We are honoring this woman, but we are also asking her to guide our community in conversation, right? To share her story of how she came to do the work that she does, what lights her fire every day, what gets her up in the morning, what inspires her. And importantly, who supported her along her journey, understanding that none of us work in a vacuum, that we are all the descendants of traditions. And then we have conversation in the room. My favorite part, I deeply value the daughter's remarks and what she shares and her call to action to our community. But my favorite part is the question and answer session, when our community starts to engage with the Daughter of Greatness, the honoree, and they bring their ideas and their thoughts and their questions into the conversation. And ultimately, I think everyone leaves pretty inspired to go out and make a difference in the world.
I love that. That's such a beautiful notion. Well, I know all of these honorees, these past honorees, are incredibly inspiring. Do you have like a standout story, something that really resonated with you, with a daughter in its entirety that you can remember that stuck with you?
I mean, there are so many, and honestly, transparently, I brought some notes with me, but because we've had 66 Daughters of Greatness.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is incredible. Women from around the world, nationally. I mean, Dr. Doris Kearns Goodwin, the profound historian and author. Jasmine Guy, who people know, I'll never forget her speech. People know her from The Cosby Show or from A Different World. But she spoke about finding her commitment to social justice and health equity, living through the HIV epidemic in New York and seeing it decimate the arts community, and so many of her friends losing their life, that it led to her commitment to giving back in that way. We've had 2 incredible Afghani women over the years whose stories I will never forget. The first is a young woman named Captain Nilafar Rahmani, who became the first pilot in the Afghani Air Force.
Wow.
Talk about breaking down barriers and finding your way through systems of oppression. Absolutely incredible. And then recently we had a woman named Pashtuna Durrani, who is a dear friend of mine, an incredible young woman who is using her life to make sure that other young women, particularly in Afghanistan, get an education. I mean, she has put herself at incredible risk. I mean, her life has been threatened. Her family has been threatened. When she is working in community, she can't be public about it because of the sincere threat to her life. And yet she has the conviction every single day to get up and use her life's purpose to go out and make sure that other young girls can receive an education because she thinks that's the pathway to liberation. I'll tell you one that really sticks with me is Captain Brenda Berkman, who was the first woman firefighter in the New York City Fire Department, but she also was a 9/11 first responder. And she came and shared her story of that day and what it was like to be at Ground Zero and again, using her life's purpose to go out and to save people and to make a difference in her community. It was incredibly profound. But I'll tell you, there are countless stories, and those are people from outside of our community. But I could sit here and talk about the women of greatness in our community. I mean, Tori Murden McClure, who was the first woman to row solo across the Atlantic Ocean. And I'll never forget at her Daughters of Greatness event, I was not aware of this, but she was deeply inspired by Muhammad Ali. And if you know Tori's story at all, you know that she attempted to row across the Atlantic Ocean, was hit by 2 hurricanes, and had to be rescued. She came back to Louisville. She was having lunch with Muhammad and Lonnie, and Muhammad looked at her and said, "You don't want to be known as the woman who almost rowed across the Atlantic Ocean." And she says that's the reason that she got back in the boat and made the journey the next time. It's incredible. I mean, incredible stories. There are so many more. I can go into them if you'd like.
Well, let's keep moving on. We'll come back to it because I think it's really incredible to know. I mean, this is how we get inspired for the future at these paths that are leading forward. And so I'm kind of curious, Muhammad Ali was a champion of justice and equality. And how do you feel like, I mean, you're saying it right now through the stories, basically, that the program is carrying forward, his legacy of empowering voices of all kinds. But what about, and I know you've talked about this a bit, but marginalized voices as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's significantly important to the Daughters of Greatness program and to the work of the Muhammad Ali Center. I think that the center is and continues to be a space for people of marginalized identities to have their voice front and center in the work as we continue to build out solutions to our community's most pressing social issues. At the center, we say that the people who are most impacted by oppression, the people most affected by inequity and injustice in our community, need to be at the center of seeking those solutions. That's at the core of the Daughters of Greatness program, but more importantly, it's at the core of the work of the Muhammad Ali Center. In every way that we move in community, we want people who are most affected by systems of injustice to be at the center of the conversation, to be at the center of our convenings, to be at the table as we collectively build solutions to building a more just, inclusive, and thriving community for all.
So if Muhammad Ali were here today, what do you think he would say about the importance of uplifting women's voices?
I think that Muhammad would be an incredible champion of the program. If you've been through the center exhibits, and I hope everyone listening, if you haven't been, you come down to the museum at some point. But if you go to the center's exhibits, you'll see Muhammad's wife, Lonnie, in our Respect Pavilion. And she talks about how Muhammad gave her every opportunity to be Superwoman. And you'll see, if you ever have the opportunity to speak to any of Muhammad's 7 daughters, that he really was a part of them becoming powerful, impactful women in their own right, in their lives. And I think Muhammad certainly saw that all people, men, women, friends, everyone of all genders, needed to be in collective coalition with one another as we move our world forward. So I think Muhammad would be very proud of this program, and I think he certainly spoke about the women in his life, Alberta Jones, his mom, Odessa, the women in his life who made his greatness possible. So I think he would certainly be a great advocate for this program.
You touch on such an important point, sort of like all working together. Like, what responsibility do men and allies have in advancing gender equity, and what actions can encourage broader participation in this work?
I think we all have a responsibility in promoting gender equity. I think when we address injustice, when we build a more just and inclusive society, it is a better society for all people. Men are central to the work of building a just and inclusive society for all. And I certainly would love to see more men in the room for our Daughters of Greatness program. There's a lot of women who are in the room who come to be in conversation with one another. Certainly, there are a lot of incredible leaders in our community who are doing the work and moving our community forward. But we all need to be arm in arm with one another if we're going to make a real difference.
Well, we'll be back in a minute. You're listening to On Track. You're listening to On Track. I'm Aisha Jaffer, joined by Erin Herbert, Senior Vice President of Operations at the Muhammad Ali Center. Today, we're diving into the Daughters of Greatness program and its mission to celebrate and uplift inspiring women all year round. So how do you think programs like Daughters of Greatness contribute to a larger movement of gender equity and representation?
Yeah, well, I certainly think that let me talk about the term Daughters of Greatness and why we landed on it. You know, the idea of greatness, I think, is often claimed by men, right? Like, I don't think that we have any issue with calling men great or feeling that men embody the idea of greatness or being a champion. But I think it's really critical that we understand that there's greatness walking our streets of Louisville, and that there are so many women who embody that concept in how they move throughout the world and how they live their life. The Daughters of Greatness program is really about collective power. It's about showcasing women who have achieved greatness in diverse ways by making a difference in the world. But more importantly, it's about bringing people together. It's about being in conversation with one another. It's about convening and coalition and understanding that there is power in collective action. And so the core of the program is really about the call to action that the daughter issues and how we collectively as a community can start to move our community forward.
So, I mean, in this call to action, this inspire of change, what kind of impact have you seen that have on the attendees over the years?
I've seen it in so many ways. Particularly, my favorite part of Daughters of Greatness is when we have young people in the room, when we have students from either high school, JCPS, or college students who come into the room who then very concretely reflect back to me and in conversation to me that they are going to take action, that they feel inspired to stand in their own greatness, to take up space, to speak up in spaces that they wouldn't normally speak up, to start to enter into that idea of being a leader in whatever way that means, whether that's in their classroom or it's around a boardroom table, who are inspired to dream a little bit bigger, to become and to embody the leaders that they see standing on our stage. I think there's direct impact, particularly in the young people who come to our Daughters of Greatness program and can suddenly see themselves in the women that are standing on that stage. I remember very clearly when we honored Hannah Drake, and at the end of the program, she did her powerful program, Spaces. And if you haven't heard it, Spaces is all about the idea that our spaces, the spaces that we construct are really not designed for women, particularly women of color, Black women. And yet, by standing on that stage, if I'm remembering the end of her poem correctly, she talks about by being that voice, by standing on that stage, by taking up space, she's telling other women, you belong. We belong here. You belong here. And that's really the power of the Daughters program as well. Like, you can see other women who've had all different stories, who come from all different walks of life, who've had all different experiences, occupy a space of leadership, a space of greatness. And I really think that inspires the next generation, which is a clear part of our mission at the center as well.
So I want to talk about the next generation. What do you think, what do you feel it means to celebrate women in leadership? Like, what are the challenges that these changemakers face in trying to attain leadership?
Well, first of all, I think take up space. I think, we certainly need women to enter into the leadership roles. We need women leading our community forward. And I think what I feel and I hear and I see articulated in the Daughters program and the power of that program is standing side by side and arm with one another. So I think there's such power in women supporting other women. I've been a part of programs in our community where the real, the crux of it is the idea that as women occupy leadership spaces, we need to support one another. We need to elevate one another. We need the support of other women. So I really think as women are entering into leadership spaces, it's those of us who are in those spaces, making room, bringing them along, and standing arm in arm with one another, so that when women are entering into these roles, that they have the support of a coalition of women standing behind them.
And sort of like we talked about, we just touched on, I know this is a big question, but what do you think maybe right now are the biggest challenges women changemakers face today? Or some of them?
Yeah, I think it's a really complex environment that we're living in right now. We at the center, we have an initiative that is specifically looking to address polarization and hate and divisiveness. We're living in a world where it's very hard to move things forward right now, that we seem to be comfortable with othering each other, with an us versus them mentality. And that's a very challenging space if you want to make change, because we need collective action. We need to find commonality. We need to see each other's common human values and common humanity. At the center, we have an initiative called the Muhammad Ali Index and a compassion report. And it's all about addressing this really deep polarization that we're experiencing, this inclination toward disunity and hate. Understanding in a way that Muhammad just truly embodied that we have to see each other as people. We have to see the humanity in one another. We have to start seeing each other if we're going to be able to really make a difference and become change makers and move the community forward. So I'd say certainly in this environment that it's an extra layer of challenge, but it's one that I think that we can stand up to together and to address.
So I think about engaging with the public. We have these events, the Daughter of Greatness events, the Index. Are there ways the public can engage with or support these programs, these ideas beyond these events? Oh, yeah.
There are so many ways. First of all, just be in conversation with the Ali Center. We are Louisville's community center. We want to make good of the promise of the center in our community, the way that Muhammad wanted us to be. We want to be in conversation with our community. We want to hear from the Louisville community about how you'd like to see the center show up in space. I would encourage everyone to go to our website, Ali Center, or to Ali Index, which is where this new work lives, to take our Compassion Pledge, which is all about saying that you want to be a part of making a more inclusive, compassionate, and just world. I would encourage you to reach out to me directly and talk about the programming and the way that you'd like the center to show up in community. We do not exist in a vacuum. We are only as strong as the people who come through our doors, who want to be a part of moving Muhammad's legacy forward. And so we really invite the Louisville community to be a part of that work with us.
And those who have not been to the Ali Center, can you give us a rundown on what it is and what we can see and do there?
Well, it's my favorite museum in the world. It's an incredible cultural. The Ali Center is so many things. It's first and foremost a beautiful museum and culture center. It's a 94,000 square foot museum that takes you through the life and legacy of Muhammad Ali. Around his 6 core principles: confidence, conviction, dedication, giving, respect, and spirituality. When Muhammad founded the center in 2005, Muhammad and his wife Lonnie, they didn't want it to be a space that just celebrated his greatness. They wanted it to be a space of inspiration and a space of learning. So when you come to our museum, you really experience his life through the lens of those core principles, because he understood that we could all apply those principles, respect and dedication and giving, on our personal journeys to find our own greatness through service to others. So it's a beautiful, inspirational experience. But it's also a lot of fun. Muhammad, there's a boxing section. You can step inside a boxing ring and see if you can go 3 rounds. Trained by Muhammad's daughter, Layla Ali, on a video. There's a heavy bag. You can sit and watch all of Muhammad's fights in full, which is really incredible. It's a beautiful journey through his life, but really at the core of our work, it's about what can you do to go out and make a difference? How can you take up Muhammad's torch? How can you use your platform to go out and make a difference in the world?
Just a powerful force, really, for a city to be surrounded by, really, in essence.
Right. And we're the only Muhammad Ali Center in the world, right? I think, if you travel anywhere in the world, Muhammad is universal. People, if you wear a Muhammad Ali shirt, anyone around the world is going to have a conversation with you. I've had that wonderful experience. But Muhammad was from Louisville, Kentucky, and he chose to put his center here. And we are the only city in the world that can claim that. So it's a real treasure to have here in our community.
So beyond March, every day of the year, what do you feel it means to celebrate women's leadership?
Yeah, I think to celebrate women's leadership is to celebrate the best of humanity. I mean, if you want to understand how to move our community forward, if you want to understand where there are challenges, but also where there are opportunities, then talk to women, right? Particularly talk to Black women and talk to women of color in our community and be informed by their expertise and their leadership. At the Muhammad Ali Center, we exist to move Muhammad's legacy forward. And there's no better way that we can do that than in celebrating leaders in our community who are trying to make the world a better place. Muhammad had this incredible platform. He got to stand on the world stage. I mean, he knew that he had fame and fortune and a platform to make a difference. But the center is all about, it doesn't matter where you're from, regardless if you stand on the world stage or you can just kick a box over and step up, like everyone can make a difference in the world. And so it's really critically important that we look for the leaders in our community, that we honor women through our Daughters of Greatness program who are using their life in that way, and that we're inspired by their greatness to find our pathway to go out and make a difference.
Erin, we're so fortunate to have you as well in our city.
Thank you.
Erin, thank you for being here on Track.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Erin Herbert is the Senior Vice President of Operations at the Muhammad Ali Center and serves on the executive leadership team overseeing the center's educational initiatives and business operations. She holds a master's in women's and gender studies from the University of Louisville, a bachelor's in cultural anthropology from Hanover College, and a nonprofit financial management certificate from Cornell University. On Track is a production of Louisville Public Media. The On Track production team includes Michelle Tyreen Johnson, Jacob Munoz, Alex Biscardi, and Laura Ellis. If you're just tuning in and you want to hear the full show, you can find it now at LouisvilleOnTrack.org or in your favorite podcast app. And let's continue the conversation. Is there something you want to hear about, something that matters to your Kentuckiana experience? Let us know by sending us a text or giving us a call at 502-814-TALK or send an email to ontrack@lpm.org. I'm Aisha Jaffer, and remember, not just this month, but all year long, women's voices keep us strong. Until next time, you're on track with Louisville Public Media. Springtime is just around the corner, and it's not too soon to start planting your garden. Maybe you're wondering if your spot is sunny enough to support sweet peas, how to make your rosebuds abundant, or when to prune your poplar. Ask our master gardeners. Call or text 502-814-TALK. That's 502-814-8255 with your questions for On Track's Spring Gardening Show.